Hello there everybody, welcome to another MapleStory video. It's been a minute. This is a Challenger World 3 video, and yes, I'm just going to be doing Monster Park in the background kind of while I yap. Just because I felt like I should do like a proper sort of like video where I just kind of talk about like the Challenger World stuff, because I did record all of my week 1 stuff, and I guess, based on what I'm going to title the video, it's just going to be like, I don't know, like Challenger World 3, like week 1 diamond or something. I don't know, something like that. But basically, my plan for Challenger World 3 slightly shifted based on like kind of what's been going on with me in life. Just like life kind of just happens. Some like things just kind of happened. It is fine, ultimately, everything's fine, but it was just like a lot more sort of time than I had initially anticipated, and things that I needed to do, and yeah. So my initial plan for Challenger World 3 was to grind it super hard and just make like a fucking broken-ass class, i.e. why I picked Hayato. I don't really... I don't care too much about Hayato, as a class. I literally... this is 100% a pick just because it's broken as shit. And Hayato seemed to be a little bit more appealing to me than Kana, which is why I didn't pick Kana. And like I had briefly played Kana a little bit when the Sengoku rework came out, to grind out the kills on the Kana for the title. Granted, obviously I didn't boss on it or anything, but like just the gameplay of like juggling the summons wasn't very fun to me. It just kind of felt like Wild Hunter, but like not as good, which is weird for me to say, because Wild Hunter is like generally speaking kind of weak, and obviously Kana's very strong, but for some reason to me Kana just feels worse than Wild Hunter. And maybe that's just because I am used to Wild Hunter and I'm not used to Kana. In any case, I picked Hayato because, I don't know, I just knew I wasn't like the biggest fan of Kana, so I was like, you know what, I'll roll the dice. I know Hayato's broken, so I will make a Hayato. So obviously made a Hayato, and this is like, I think I'm recording this on June 28th, so like it's like getting towards the end of week 2. I mean, obviously I've already re-cleared all of my bosses, and I cleared all of the bosses on week 1, so like if I look at my Challenger World rank, like this is what I basically hit like immediately on week 1. And that's kind of what the rest of the video is going to be. It's going to be all of my boss runs, and I'll like briefly do a little bit of post commentary over each boss run, and if I think there's anything relevant to say, I'll say it, of course. But for the most part, it's just going to be like a video montage of me like doing all the bosses. And obviously for Kai specifically, I didn't look anything up on Kai. It took me maybe 30 minutes total to like get good enough, quote unquote, to clear the boss. I think it was at like 40 mil CP or something, like 38 maybe. I don't know, something like that. Obviously as Hayato, it's very simple. If you're getting cooldown resets, which I wasn't for all like any of Phase 2, because Phase 2 I just didn't understand whatsoever. Because like I said, I just looked, I didn't look like literally anything up. I just kind of went in and fucked around. I learned P1 enough to get it done with like cooldown resets. And then P2, the first time I saw P2, yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing in terms of like patterns and stuff, so I was not getting the cooldown resets. But I was still able to clear it, so whatever. Not the greatest gameplay, but that's okay. I think that just kind of goes to show you, you don't have to be perfect in order to clear shit, because Lord knows I am not perfect, and I was like showing that off. And then for a lot of the earlier bosses, I do think I was playing Hayato like slightly incorrectly. For a lot of it, it's just like learning how to play your class too, which I know, quote-unquote, learning how to play your class when it's like a 3-button class is like a meme or whatever. But like, for example, knowing what skill sequence, like what sequence to press certain skills in, like what order, it does matter for Hayato. And obviously the muscle memory just isn't there for me yet, since I have not played it, like, at all. So, like, knowing when I'm supposed to use Dark Moon Cut first versus, like, using, what the fuck is this called? Full Moon's Rage, Noto into like Wailing Heavens or whatever. And then Dark Moon Cut after. Basically, it's just 2-minute versus Origin Burst. You use Dark Moon Cut first on Ori Burst, otherwise you use the others. But, and then also for a while I wasn't using Noto on the 2-minute burst because I was like, I remember reading, because I like, again, for the Hayato stuff, I briefly did read how to burst, but I obviously didn't, like, upkeep it or intake it all properly. So, like, I was like, oh, you're not supposed to use Noto during Origin Burst. So it just never dawned on me that, like, for 2-minute, you should probably be using it. So it took me a while to look it up just to make sure that I was doing it right, and of course I wasn't doing it right, so yeah. Basically, all I'm trying to say is, learning how to play a new class is a learning process, and that's also something that I enjoy showcasing, because you don't have to be perfect to clear these bosses. Yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go finish up this monster park, and hopefully, if you guys are sticking around, enjoy the rest of the video. Obviously, I'll timestamp every boss, and like I said, if I think there's anything relevant to say, I'll do some post-commentary voiceover for all of the bosses for a little bit, just to see if I have anything to say for each individual boss. I imagine I won't have much to say for many of them. Obviously, I'll give like the Kai disclaimer for people who just skip on over to Kai and don't want to watch the rambling part. Though, to be honest, I think like the vast majority of people who watch my videos watch it just solely for the rambling, which is like kind of goated. So like, thank y'all, love you all, and yeah. Challenger World 3, not quite going as I had initially planned it out to, but I'll still be playing it, and I'll still be grinding on the Hayato. Kinda sucks, though, that this character kind of needs 3 balls, because it doesn't have any summons of its own. So, in order for me to, like, properly farm on it, I'm gonna have to get 20 Janus minimum, which kinda sucks, but such is life. I'm just still kind of thinking what I want to do with my stuff. I've been collecting energy. I haven't really spent anything in a while, because I can comfortably re-clear my bosses with this current Hexa. It's just a lot of Hexa investment for Soul Janus that is not going to make me stronger for a long time because I'm investing it into Soul Janus. I don't know. We will have to see. Anyways, I'll stop rambling, and I will see you guys in the next video / the rest of the bossing clips if you guys decide to watch those. Yippee. And of course, like the video if you want, subscribe, all that good shit. Bye. Well, asterisk bye. Okay, so something I also did want to mention, and I guess I'll mention it here since I didn't mention it in the intro ramble clip if you guys watched that, but what I also am doing is the boss order that the order that the bosses appear in the video is the order that I did them in to progress. I think I basically started at bronze or silver, whatever the tier was that gives you the skill ring. I think I just barely had that, so I had my roar. Because I took the roar, I wasn't going to min-max with weapon jump or, like, whatever. I don't care that much, man. And honestly, Hayato, the majority of the damage comes from your main burst anyway, so it's like, whatever. I just took the roar, despite being able to rent the roar, and then I rented the rest of my gear. I'm basically just 271 with rental gear. I think maybe I had Hexa stat 1 in this as well, so that's why maybe I have a little bit more CP than you would, but I had 2-line secondary, and I had 1-line emblem with attack. No boss lines on any of that stuff, otherwise just rental gear and item burning gear. So the first boss I start off with here is Hard Lotus, obviously. If you're a newer player, Hard Lotus can be one of the trickier bosses, just because it's like, There can be a lot going on. Obviously, for an older player or somebody who runs X-Lot on, like, I don't know, or has ran X-Lot for multiple months, many months. Someone like me, I run this boss on multiple characters every week, and I have for quite some time. Lotus is just whatever. You should very easily be able to have the damage to clear Hard Lotus with just rentals. Like, basically, you hit, I don't know. I mean, especially if you're 270, you hit 270 with rentals, you for sure will have the damage to clear Hard Lotus, even if you're, like, brand new. You just have to focus on, you know, staying calm, relaxed, and not stressing yourself out. Because P3 can get a little hectic, which I totally understand. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh yeah, P3 is nothing on hard compared to like extreme, whatever. Lotus does like nothing, whatever. If you're new, it's gonna be more difficult. That's just how it is. Practice is all you need to do, really. It's just a practice kind of thing. You need to get the repetitions in, and the only way to do it is by practicing. But hard Lotus is definitely very manageable. Very, very manageable. That's all I got to say on this boss, though. Pretty straightforward and simple. You just gotta get it down.
Zone control protocol engaged. Establishing
Okay, so the next boss, naturally, after Hard Lotus, is Hard Damien. These are both essentially like the exact same like HP levels, and like the exact same difficulty tier. Thing I don't like about Damien, obviously, is that Damien is just a far more annoying boss in my opinion because of all the flying up mechanics, the blue balls, reducing your damage by like fuck-ass 90% or some shit. I don't know what the percentage actually is. It's a fucking lot. In P2 of Damien, if you stand on the blue ball, your damage gets severely reduced. They did make it better, though, because now the blue balls disappear when you bind Damien, so it's, like, less annoying, but it's still... I still don't like Damien. Damien is a fucking miserable boss. But much like Hard Lotus, Hard Damien is very clearable if you can clear Hard Lotus, which, again, if you rent your gear, obviously you can. I mean, you, realistically, if you're a more veteran player and you're not, like, new and you're, like, you know, you're comfortable with the boss, you could do Hard Lotus, Hard Damien without renting the gear. It will just take longer. And I'm not saying that the ways that I'm doing these bosses is like minimum clears, because for a lot of these bosses they're not, especially since I'm a Hayato, which is a very, very good class for these bosses in general. So these boss runs are not min clears. Some of the bosses do take quite some time, like I think the hilla run was like 20 plus minutes. I think the darknell run was like almost 20 minutes. So it's not like I'm just insta-killing these bosses, but you get what I mean. It's not like there's wiggle room. So the rentals in some cases aren't fully needed, but yeah. Hopefully that makes sense. As always, Damien is honestly mechanically easier than Lotus, I think probably, right? Really you just have to avoid the fucking balls in all phases, realistically speaking, and just make sure you cleanse at the altar before you hit 7 stacks or you just die instantly and spawn a sword. But if you're really struggling with Lotus and you want to get like a boss clear under your belt and you're a new player, I think maybe you go Damien, just because like this boss really doesn't do anything. He's just annoying. But yeah, that's all I got for Damien. Okay, the next boss on the list was Lucid. So I decided to do Lucid pretty early on because I think Lucid, mechanically speaking, Lucid is a very simple boss. And the HP values for Lucid aren't super high. The reason why Lucid, specifically hard Lucid, is kind of difficult is specifically because of the hard only phase, which is phase 3. Phase 3 only exists in hard mode, and the thing about phase 3 is you have about 40 seconds to do a ton of fucking damage, or else you just can't clear the boss. So, some classes, specifically more DPM heavy classes, think classes like Lin. I think my friend who was playing Lin was kind of struggling on being able to clear the P3 damage check. Maybe he was just doing something wrong, but I do know Lin is like typically a very DPM heavy class. So DPM heavy classes can struggle with P3, which means maybe hard Lucid is going to be more difficult for them just because they don't have the damage, like they can't output the damage in 40 seconds that you need to output. It's something like 5 trillion damage in 40 seconds or something like that. Obviously, for Hayato, this is no issue as long as you go into phase 3 with all of your burst up, it instantly gets deleted. Which is why I was like, okay, I'll do hard Lucid as like my first like real hard, I guess, Tenebrous boss, even though this is not Tenebrous technically. Yeah, I don't know. The only real advice that I have for Lucid, again, is for phase 3, and it's to make sure that you're going into phase 3 with your burst up, like your entire burst up, Ori burst, and whatever. And I think that's another reason why Lin kind of struggles. It's because Lin Origin is kind of fit for damage. Like, Lin Origin is just, to my understanding, it is a DPS loss to use it ever. The only use it has is to, like, bind a boss if your party needs you to bind it because they're off Ori burst, but they're burst, you know what I mean? So, again, I think Lin might just struggle with P3 Lucid specifically because of these things. Anyways, just make sure you go into P3 with all of your burst up. And if you really want to min-max it and you're really struggling for the damage, you can also time Fatal Strike, the special node, with P3, just to get a little bit extra burst damage. Can help, but yeah. That's all I got to say about Lucid. Okie dokie, the next boss on my chopping block was Darknell. Why did I choose Darknell over, like, any of the other bosses? Well, simply put, my friends, it's because Darknell is just like a straightforward dude who just kind of takes a while. And no matter when I was doing Darknell, Darknell would always just take a while. My thinking was I didn't want to do hilla right away, because hilla I wanted to do ideally last, because hilla is the tankiest and the strongest, and I also have the least arcane force bonus from it. Darknell is also kind of problematic because Darknell is level 270, which means I don't have the highest level damage, final damage bonus, because I'm only 271. It's 5 levels above. So I am losing damage on Darknell. And I'm not sure if I have arcane force for 1.5x damage. I think I do. I think hilla is the only one I didn't have 1.5x damage for. But that's why I chose Darknell. Now, you could be asking yourself, like, Chris, why didn't you just do, like, Gloom or Will? So, Gloom, I really don't know. I don't know why I chose to do Darknell first over Gloom specifically. I think it's just because maybe Gloom didn't give enough points and Darknell did to hit the next Challenger tier. I'm not sure. I think that might be it. And I didn't want to do Will because I don't like Will as a boss to begin with. And then I also was like, I knew Will wasn't going to be as bad as people were making it out to be for Hayato, because you can just split burst. But I was like, oh, it's going to be even more annoying because I'm a Hayato. It really wasn't more annoying. Like I said, you just split burst and it's like totally fine. I just don't like Will as a boss because he takes forever and I think he's horribly designed. So I chose to do Darknell. And Darknell was going to get me to the next Challenger tier, I believe, which at this point I think would have been like Gold. Yeah. Darknell, there's a lot going on for Darknell, and Hayato has it pretty easy because the recovery skill it has is really, really good. The lifesteal. Basically, anytime I do a crit, I think it's like a 40% chance to heal 4% of my max health. So I don't even have Fountain leveled. I would highly recommend you leveling Fountain if you haven't at this point for Darknell specifically, because there's a lot of outgoing damage, and having Fountain, which is like at max level, Fountain heals so much. You can tank so much with Fountain. And Darknell is a good boss to kind of learn, like, sort of movement for your class if you're unfamiliar with your class's movement in a boss scenario, and also just kind of getting used to using iframes if your class has an iframe, which I think pretty much every class in the game has an iframe now. So, getting more comfortable with just using your class's utility and stuff. I do think Darknell is pretty good for that. But Darknell is definitely one of the harder bosses, especially as a newer player. It is just one of those things that you are going to need to practice. You're just going to have to practice this boss quite a bit, and especially in a longer Darknell run. I believe this Darknell run took about 20 minutes. I mean, I can skip to the end, I suppose, and see. Let me see here. It's about a 16-minute run. Okay, so a little bit faster than I thought, but 16 minutes in Darknell is still quite some time. So don't feel bad if you can't live that long. I mean, realistically, your goal with bosses, especially if you're new, should always be to try to survive the 30-minute timer first. You always want to be timing out of bosses instead of dying out of bosses, right? Because if you're timing out, that means you're living the whole timer, right? Which is good. But you can always work on optimizing your damage later once you get more comfortable with living. If you're able to live, you can then incorporate doing more damage and having better uptime. Obviously, you want to be bursting properly because bursting, typically speaking, is safe. But just like extra DPM is like not something you should be greeting for if you're not comfortable living with, you know, the boss's normal patterns to begin with. That's what I'm saying. Always prioritize learning the boss mechanics and patterns first before you try to optimize your DPM uptime, in my opinion. And again, this is like really good for a burst heavy class like Hayato, because it doesn't really matter if I hit the boss in between like my bursts, because it doesn't account for that much of the class's damage, which can be very impactful and important. It wouldn't really matter for me either way, because like I'm very comfortable with these bosses, so I'm just like doing my regular uptime anyways. But yeah, it's something to consider if you're a newer player and you're like trying to find a class that you want to like learn bosses on. Classes that dump most of their damage in their burst is going to be easier to learn bosses on, because you get punished less for doing less DPM uptime, if that makes sense. Anyways, I've yapped enough about Darknell. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, after darknell, I decided it was gloom time. Gloom is a fairly straightforward boss. The thing that kind of gets tricky with gloom is when you go into darkness mode. Darkness mode is quite intensive. It's when the gauge fills up, the like fear gauge or the nightmare gauge, whatever the hell they call it, the darkness gauge. I don't know. But basically the gauge fills up over time slowly, and I think it fills up proportionally if you get hit by like the falling debris. I don't really know what the fuck the debris does. One of them, either the pink or the purple one will make you miss, and the other one will make you zombified. The blue one is the only one that you really need to pay attention to, because the blue one will stun you if you get hit by it. So keep that in mind. You really should really try to never get hit by the blue one, because being stunned in gloom is very bad, because the legs are constantly coming down, and the legs will, generally speaking, kill you. Other than that, though, gloom is fairly straightforward because it doesn't move. It doesn't really do traditional attacks like other bosses do. It's just the legs, the debris, and then the darkness sort of mode, which happens, and the mobs that come out and attack you. The thing with darkness mode is it lasts for a good little bit of time. The best way to deal with it is to just utilize your class's movement as best you can to stay away from the bottom of the screen. You never want to be on the bottom of the screen. You either want to be on Gloom's legs or you want to be airborne in some fashion. You can also utilize blink in the air. Like if you hold your blink key, you'll float for a little bit. In darkness mode specifically, even if you're getting like skill locked or reversed and all of that shit by the darkness mobs, if you're already holding blink in the air, you will stay like floating as long as you hold the key. So that can be a way to save yourself, especially in darkness. I do it multiple times throughout the run, so, I mean, if you want to see how I handle each darkness, you can. But you kind of understand what I mean, hopefully, by watching, if my words aren't quite doing it. Yeah, otherwise, Gloom is pretty straightforward. There are, like, thresholds for when he opens his eye and takes full damage. I'm not going to get into that here. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, for the purposes of what I'm describing. Basically just burst whenever he takes full damage, and he takes full damage when he opens his eye, when he like puts his legs out like this. You get the idea. And he'll open his eye at certain thresholds, and then he'll also open his eye every like minute. That's really all you need to know. But that's it for Gloom. We'll move on to the next one. Okay, the next boss on the list that I decided to take on was William. Will, I hate this boss. I think it's a horrible design. And I put it off this long because, again, I mentioned it in either the darknell or the lucid clip, but I don't like Will, and obviously everybody was like, oh, Hayato struggles so much with Will, but I was like, surely that can't be the case. You just split burst. It can't be that bad. And yeah, it's not that bad. It really does not make a goddamn difference. Especially at low CP, you're never going to phase this boss through DPM, regardless of what class you are, at low CP. So, it didn't really feel any different than any other low CP class, truthfully. It's just Will is a badly designed boss, in my opinion. The only thing that I can say is some people I do know struggle on Phase 3 Will. The thing about Phase 3 Will is you have basically a limited amount of time to kill the boss before you get fully webbed out. Though I will say, even if you do get fully webbed out, you can wait the death timer, wait for your burst to come up. When you respawn, you have a slight period of time where you're invulnerable and you can cast your burst and, like, burst. So, even when you web out, technically, you can still do some bursts, depending on how many lives you have saved up. And if you wait out the full timer, because a full timer is like 30 seconds plus a little bit. So it's like 35 seconds or so per death. So you could easily get like a couple extra bursts off at the end. And if your class has iframes and stuff too, you can iframe out of the webs to like get more damage out. But really, Phase 3 is like the phase that I think a lot of people, typically newer players, struggle with because they web out. And obviously you should do your best to always clear the webs as you go, because you want to make sure that the webs take as long as possible before you hit the webbed out stage. And generally speaking, healing familiars can help for all of these bosses. I think I had like a 5% healing fam that I used for V Hilla, but even then it didn't really do that much, mostly just there to have it. But yeah. As far as Will goes, you can kind of see how I do Will. I just basically dump half my burst on one side and then the other half on the other side to try to equalize it. And it works pretty well. It's not perfect, obviously, and I didn't do this perfectly because it was my first time ever running Will on a Hayato, especially at the CP. I don't really know how my damage spread is going to look, what buttons I should be pressing, what buttons I shouldn't be pressing. But I think overall, it was not bad whatsoever. It's just Will being Will, and I don't like Will because I don't like the boss. Anyways, that'll be it for Will. Okie dokie, after Will, I decided to do Slime. I did Sea Slime. The reason why I did Slime so late is just because Slime, while not a super mechanically intensive boss, it just takes for fucking ever, especially at low CP. Which is why I wanted to wait until I was as strong as possible outside of V-Hilla, because I wanted to be the strongest for V-Hilla, because I really don't like doing super long V-Hilla runs, but I knew it was going to be a super long V-Hilla run no matter what, because again, I was under AF. Arcane Force, so I was not getting like 1.5x damage, I was getting like 1.3. Yeah. Slime, again though, is pretty straightforward boss. Just burst on cooldown. Block gates. Make the slime wave go in the gate. If it's a yellow slime wave, you make it go in a gate that you didn't block. During the test, or after the test when he's groggy, he takes extra damage. It lines up with every burst. So you can burst on entry and literally just burst every time your burst comes up. It's super simple. You don't really have to think too much about it. It just takes a while. Slime can do quite a bit of damage. The pink slimes with hearts can seduce you. Keep that in mind. That's a very easy way to die outside of things. And yes, like I was saying, slime does do a lot of damage, so you kind of need to be careful, but you can just play it safe instead of just trying to always hit the boss. So, again, you probably should always be hitting the boss as much as you can here, because he doesn't really do anything outside of just like a lot of damage through like the random like ground effects and attacks that he does do. And you never want to get caught by the beam, because the beam will stun you, and it also does a ton of damage. The green beams that appear every like, I don't know, 20 seconds. But that being said, this is just a slog of a fight, not too difficult mechanically speaking. Okay, and then after Sea Slime, pretty much the last, like, proper boss was hilla. Hilla took me a couple of attempts, obviously it always does, get used to doing it at a low CP and not having healing fams, because again, I think I only had like a 5% healing fam or something. So, I mean, it was, like, there, but it's not super useful in the sense that it will let me sit there and tank everything she ever does. It's just not simply the case. Hilla is definitely one of the more... I don't want to say most difficult Tenebrous boss, because I do think there's an argument to be made for Darknell. But I do think, typically speaking, hilla is the hardest Tenebrous boss. Just because of the lack of healing. And also, I did kind of fuck up on that burst. I was super not happy with it, so I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go back the fuck in, and we're gonna do it right, because I just potatoed the burst. I think I was still tilted from when I died out. Because before this run, I died out at like 5% or something, or 10%. It was very tilting. All this to say that, like, I still, like, I'm not perfect, you know, I'm really not. I never claimed to be. You just need to practice, you really do. And then for the longer runs, even I still need to practice, because I'm so used to just insta-killing these bosses. And I think this ends up being like a 14, 15, 16-minute run, something like that. So it's not super, super long, but I did this intentionally because I knew hilla was already going to be, like, a boss that I struggled with. Because I just think she's the hardest, especially without, like, 3 proper healing fans. I just have a 5%. But yeah, hilla really, again, unsurprisingly, like most of the bosses in here, it's just you need to practice. You need to get comfortable with moving your character in, like, the proper ways, micro-moving. The only time you're able to heal properly with potions is if you take strings and you spawn an altar. And once you pop the altar, you're able to heal for like 5 seconds normally. That's how you're supposed to do the fight, and that's kind of how I'm forced to do the fight since I don't have healing fams. Healing fams do go through this potlock, so you don't need to, like, spawn the altar, and you can just completely focus on, like, living and dodging. And you don't have to worry about taking strings in order to spawn the altar ever to heal, which you need to do. So it definitely adds another layer. I do think hilla is quite a fun boss, so... don't get discouraged if it takes you time. It's totally normal. This is a very difficult boss, especially as a newer player. Okay, the final boss of week 1, and the boss that pushed me over the diamond is Kai. Normal Kai. Kai, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video where I was rambling, I didn't look up anything going into Kai. I sent it in practice mode a few times, and then I was just like, okay, I think I get phase 1 enough to kind of potato my way into a clear. Like, I'm obviously not doing it properly because I don't really know how to avoid all of the patterns properly, and especially in P2 it's very noticeable. I can't even do the P2 tests correctly for the most part. The P1 tests I can get down for the most part, and then obviously I'm not familiar with the patterns because I've never done the boss more than like I said, I think it took me about 30 minutes all said and done to get my clear, from never having seen the boss before ever. Why do I like doing things like this? I don't know, man. It's just how I am. I like to just get in there and, like, learn stuff firsthand. And then later on, when I'm, like, when I go to clear this boss week 3, I think I'll probably look up, like, patterns that I was unable to figure out how to dodge myself, especially for, like, P2. And then I'll learn from there and figure it out, and then apply that going forward. But the vast majority of things I like to learn myself, if possible. I don't know, I find it more enjoyable. And that's why, like, things aren't, like, super perfect. If there's, like, certain cues, like, that I'm supposed to be looking for in order to, like, dodge this last arrow. Like, I'm very bad at that because I don't know what I'm looking for. I think I based it on the sound cues normally, but I can't really base it on the sound cue at the last one, so I probably should just start iframing it, because iframing it is the same as, like, using the dash, essentially. I don't know, stuff like that. Hopefully that makes sense. Overall, though, I think Kai is really fun. I really do like this boss. I think it's really, really fun. And it's not super difficult, especially in normal mode, because, like, obviously I was able to just go in and figure it out relatively quickly. And I wouldn't say that I'm super over-spec'd. Like, I think I'm, like, 38 mil CP or 39 mil CP or something. So I'm not super over-spec'd, but I am Hayato, which I do think is very good for this fight specifically, because of the cooldown reset. So, like, the majority of my damage, like, I'm able to just dump it over and over. Granted, I don't do P2 tests properly ever, so my cooldowns aren't, like, fully reset like they should be. But I think, like I said, I got phase 1 down enough to where I was like, surely I'll have enough time to just do phase 2 even with 0 resets. And I was correct. But yeah, Kai is really fun. I really had a lot of fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed sort of my week 1 how I got diamond. I know it's not, like, really a guide video. It's just, like, one of the videos that I put out for entertainment. You feel me? Sometimes we watch videos for entertainment. God forbid. But I do hope you guys enjoyed. And as always, if you did, like the video and consider subscribing. I do want to hit 10K before I stop making videos. When that will be, I don't know. Will I ever hit 10K? Also, I don't know. I think it's possible. We'll see. But as always, thank you guys so much for spending your time with me. Time is the most valuable thing that we got, so I always appreciate how many people watch these videos. Even if it is just like second monitor stuff, I mean, that's totally chill. I think second monitor content is very important. Sometimes we just need a guy that we kind of like to listen to, vaguely talk about things that we're interested in. I know, man. That's why I made these videos starting way back in the day. But yeah, I'll stop yapping. If you're going to watch the rest of the Kai fight, enjoy. Don't make fun of me too much. I love you all. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye!
You got guts. Give you that. clock ticking. Tick tock, tick tock. Hit! This is the most fun I've had since I took control of Nexus Tower. I see. Come and take it! You missed your moment! Your history! You missed your moment! Time is my weapon! Your clock's running out! Ah! You missed your moment! It's you or me! Time is my weapon! Your clock's running out! Your history! You missed your moment! Your clock's running out! Ah! Your clock's running out! Ah! running out! Can't stop time! You or me? Your history! Your history! Can't stop time! Can't stop time! You or me? You or me? You or me? The clock's running out! You can't stop time! You missed your moment! You missed your moment! Time is my weapon! Your clock's running out!